The shelter was not a place of comfort. It was a cold and silent building made of steel walls and bright white lights. Inside it, cages stretched from one end to another, each cage holding strange creatures from faraway worlds. Some creatures growled, some hissed, some scratched against the glass. People walked past these cages every day, choosing what they wanted, like they were shopping in a market. But in the last row, in the darkest corner, there was one creature that nobody wanted. It was a dragon. Not the kind of dragon from stories, full of fire and strength, but a weak, thin, and broken dragon. The dragon's wings were torn and folded against its body. Its scales had lost their shine, now dull and gray, like old stone. Its eyes told the real story. They were large, golden eyes filled with sadness, loneliness, and something deeper, something like waiting. For many years, the dragon had been inside this cage, with nothing but silence to keep it company. It remembered skies it had once flown in, mountains it had once touched, but those memories felt like dreams. Here, in this shelter, the dragon was only seen as a dangerous beast, unworthy of love or freedom. Children sometimes came to the shelter to look at the creatures. They pressed their faces against the glass, pointing and laughing at the dragon. "Look how weak it is," they would say. "It cannot even breathe fire. It is useless." The dragon did not respond. It simply lowered its head, as if agreeing with them. The guards also ignored it. They fed it just enough to keep it alive but never enough to make it strong. To them, the dragon was a failure, a mistake of nature that should not have existed. But inside the dragon's heart, a small flame still burned. It was not the fire of destruction but the fire of hope. The dragon believed, in some corner of its mind, that one day someone would see it differently. Not as a monster, not as a weapon, but as a living being that deserved a chance. Days turned to weeks, weeks to years, and yet no one came. Still, the dragon waited. One evening, the shelter grew quiet. Most visitors had left, and only the sound of machines filled the air. The dragon lay on the cold floor of its cage, watching the ceiling lights. Suddenly, the heavy doors at the front opened with a loud echo. Footsteps entered. Not the usual heavy boots of the guards, but slower, lighter steps. The dragon lifted its head. From its cage, it could see a figure walking down the main hall. A man. He was not like the others. He wore simple clothes, not the uniform of a soldier or the armor of a hunter. His eyes did not scan the cages like a buyer choosing meat. Instead, his eyes carried a strange softness, as if he was searching for something he had already lost. The man walked past cages of fierce beasts. Giant lizards with armored skin roared to catch his attention. Robotic hounds barked and slammed against their glass. Strange bird-like creatures with glowing feathers shrieked. Each one was stronger, louder, and more dangerous than the dragon hiding in the dark. But the man ignored them all. His steps slowed when he reached the end of the row, where the weak dragon lay. For a moment, silence filled the air. The dragon stared at the man, and the man stared back. Those golden eyes met human eyes, and something passed between them. It was not fear, not anger, not hunger. It was recognition. The dragon slowly raised its head, expecting the man to laugh or walk away like everyone else. But he did not. Instead, he stepped closer to the glass and whispered words so soft that only the dragon could hear. "You are not useless," he said. "You are not what they think you are." The dragon's heart raced. No human had ever spoken to it like that. No human had ever looked at it with such calm eyes. The man placed his hand gently on the glass. The dragon wanted to move closer, but fear held it back. What if this was another trick? What if the man was just like the others? The dragon stayed still, but its eyes shone brighter than before. The guard at the corner cleared his throat. "That one," he said with a laugh. "You don't want it. It's weak. Can't fly, can't fight. A waste of food. We only keep it because orders say not to kill it. Better take one of the others. They'll serve you well." But the man did not look away. His voice was calm but firm. "This one," he said. "I'll take this one." The guard frowned. "Are you sure? It's nothing but trouble." The man nodded. "I'm sure." The guard shrugged, muttering under his breath about foolish choices. He pressed some buttons, and the cage hissed open for the first time in many years. The dragon froze. Freedom stood just a few steps away, but chains of fear held it down. The man extended his hand, waiting. No force, no anger, only patience. Slowly, carefully, the dragon took one step forward. Its claws clicked on the metal floor. Then another step. Its weak wings dragged behind, and its body shook with fear. The man did not move, did not rush. He simply waited. Finally, the dragon came close enough that its nose touched the man's hand through the opening. Warmth. Real warmth. The dragon closed its eyes. For the first time in years, it felt safe. But in the shadows above, hidden cameras blinked red. Someone else was watching this strange choice. Someone who did not want the dragon to leave the shelter. The dragon did not know it yet, but its life was about to change forever. And so was the man's. That night, the shelter became more than just a prison. It became the beginning of a journey that would carry both man and dragon far beyond cages, beyond fear, and into a destiny neither of them could yet imagine. The dragon could not believe what had just happened. 4 years, nobody had looked at it with kindness, yet this strange man had chosen it. The cage door stood open, the air of freedom touched its face, and still the dragon hesitated. It kept glancing between the man's calm eyes and the long hallway full of cold lights, unsure if this was a dream or a trap. The guards did not care. They laughed and shook their heads as if watching a fool waste his chance. "Take it if you want," one said, almost mocking. "It is your problem now." The man gave no answer to the guards. He only focused on the dragon, his hand still stretched forward. Slowly the dragon moved, each step making a faint echo in the empty hall. Its claws scraped the metal, its wings dragged along the floor. Weakness filled its body, but hope pulled it closer. When its nose touched the man's hand again, the man smiled. It was not the cruel smile of victory, but a gentle one that spoke of patience. Without a single word, the man lowered himself and looked into the dragon's eyes as if he was speaking to a lost friend. The guards began their paperwork, uninterested in what they thought was a useless creature. They talked about stronger beasts, about war machines, about contracts with rich buyers. None of their words mattered to the man. He signed what needed to be signed, his focus never leaving the dragon. Soon the chains that had held the creature were unlocked. The sound of metal falling to the floor echoed louder than any roar. The dragon lifted its head. For the first time in years, it was unchained. Its legs trembled, not from anger but from the strange feeling of freedom. The man stepped aside and whispered softly, "Come with me." The dragon followed him out of the row of cages. Other creatures growled and struck their walls, confused why this weak dragon was being taken instead of them. Some hissed with jealousy, others stared with hungry eyes. But the dragon did not respond. Its eyes stayed on the man, the only figure it trusted in this endless prison. Step by step, they walked toward the exit. The guards smirked, shaking their heads. He could have had a beast that breathes fire, one that breaks steel, one that guards him like a weapon, they whispered. Instead he takes that broken thing. What a waste. But the man did not stop. As they reached the wide steel doors, the dragon paused. It looked back one last time at the shelter, the place that had stolen years of its life. It expected to feel hatred or anger, but instead it only felt emptiness. The shelter was not worth its emotions anymore. It turned away and faced the open doors. Light spilled in from outside, brighter than any artificial lamp it had known. The dragon blinked against it, its golden eyes glowing faintly. The man led the way. Outside the shelter, the world looked different. The air was cooler, carrying the smell of rain and earth instead of chemicals and dust. The sky stretched wide, painted with stars that the dragon had not seen in so long. It lifted its head, breathing deeply. Its wings twitched as if remembering what it felt like to fly. But they were still too weak, too broken. The dragon lowered them again, sadness returning. The man noticed and said gently, "You will fly again. Not today, but one day." The dragon tilted its head. Could such a thing be true? They walked together through the silent night. A small vehicle waited at the edge of the road, sleek and built for speed. The man opened it, and with patience, guided the dragon inside. It was cramped for such a creature, but the dragon did not complain. It curled its body, folding its wings tightly. The man started the engine, and the vehicle lifted off the ground with a low hum. As they rose higher, the dragon's eyes widened. Below, the shelter grew smaller and smaller until it looked like nothing but a box. For the first time in years, the dragon was leaving its prison behind. The journey was silent at first. The man focused on flying while the dragon pressed its face against the window, watching the land pass below. Forests, rivers, and mountains rolled beneath them like a painting. The dragon's heart ached. It had once known places like these, it had once soared over landscapes even more beautiful, but those memories were foggy. Time in the cage had stolen them away. A low sound escaped its throat, half sigh and half growl. The man glanced at it and spoke softly, "I know you are hurting. But you are safe now." The dragon studied him, confused. Why would a human say such things? Humans feared dragons. Humans locked them, hunted them, used them. Yet this man was different. He did not treat it as a monster or a tool. He treated it as something worth saving. The dragon did not understand why, but for the first time, it wanted to believe. Hours passed. The stars above grew brighter as they left the cities behind. The man finally spoke again, more to himself than to the dragon. They think strength is in sharp teeth and loud roars. They do not see what true strength is. True strength is surviving when the world wants you broken. And you have survived. His words lingered in the air like a secret promise. The dragon lowered its head, resting it on the side of the cabin. Its golden eyes stayed open, watching the man. Somewhere inside, a small warmth grew. It was not fire, but it felt like the beginning of something important. But deep in the shadows of the night sky, far above them, another craft moved silently. It had followed them since they left the shelter. Its lights were off, its engines quiet, like a predator stalking its prey. The man did not notice yet, and the dragon, too lost in strange new feelings, did not sense it. But the hunt had begun. The choice of the man, strange and foolish in the eyes of others, had awakened attention from those who wanted the dragon for their own. For now, the man and the dragon shared a fragile peace inside the small ship. The dragon closed its eyes, breathing slowly, as if daring to rest for the first time. The man smiled faintly and whispered, "You are not alone anymore." He did not know how true his words would soon become, or how much danger they both would face because of this choice. And so the night carried them away, the shelter shrinking behind them, the unknown future waiting ahead. One man, one dragon, bound not by chains but by a decision that would change both their lives forever. The night passed slowly as the small ship moved across the sky. The man guided it carefully, avoiding main routes and busy air lanes. He wanted no attention, especially now that the dragon was with him. Inside the ship the air was quiet. Only the low hum of the engine filled the space. The dragon lay curled in the back, its body pressed against the metal floor, its wings folded tightly. It had not yet grown used to the freedom, and everything felt strange. No walls of glass around it, no cold chains on its legs, no guards shouting orders. For the first time in years it was traveling somewhere unknown. The man glanced back often, checking on the creature, and each time their eyes met the dragon looked away shyly, unsure what to do with this strange kindness. The man smiled faintly, as if understanding. After some hours he stopped the ship in a quiet place above a forest. The stars shone brightly outside, and the moonlight fell over the treetops. He pressed a button and the ship landed softly on a hidden clearing. The engines turned off, and silence returned. The man stood and walked toward the dragon slowly, not wanting to scare it. He carried a small package in his hands. "You must be hungry," he said gently. His voice was calm, steady, like water moving over stones. The dragon lifted its head, its golden eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. Hunger was burning in its stomach, but it did not move. For too long food had only come from cruel hands that threw scraps into the cage. It was not used to eating freely. The man placed the package on the floor and opened it. Warm steam rose from the food, filling the air with a smell the dragon had not known before. It was not raw meat or dry pellets like the shelter had given, but cooked food, made with care. He pushed the container closer and stepped back. "Eat," he said softly. The dragon hesitated. It looked at the food, then at the man, searching his face for tricks. But the man stood patiently, no force in his stance. Slowly the dragon leaned forward, sniffed, and then took a cautious bite. Warmth filled its mouth, a taste it had never known. Its eyes widened slightly. It ate another bite, then another, until the container was empty. The man smiled again. "Good," he whispered. "You are safe here." The dragon lowered its head, licking the last drops of food, but then something strange happened. A faint light began to glow beneath its scales, near its chest. At first it was weak, like a dying ember, but soon it pulsed slowly, beating in rhythm with its heart. The man's eyes widened. He crouched closer, careful not to touch without permission. "What is this?" he whispered. The dragon froze. It had hidden this secret for years, even from itself. The shelter guards had seen the glow sometimes, but they never cared to study it. They only thought it was some kind of sickness. The dragon lowered its head, ashamed, as if the glow was something to be feared. The man, however, did not look disgusted. He looked curious, almost amazed. "This is not sickness," he said softly. "This is something else." He studied the patterns of light that moved under the dragon's scales, like small veins of fire. "It is technology," he whispered to himself. "Old, ancient maybe." His hand hovered close but did not touch. The dragon watched him carefully. Its body tensed, expecting pain, but instead the man leaned back respectfully. "I will not hurt you," he said. "But I need to understand what you carry." The dragon let out a low sound, almost like a growl, but it was not anger. It was fear. The glow inside its chest had always brought nothing but trouble. It remembered faint images, running, fire, shadows chasing, a voice calling its name, but then nothing. The memory always ended in darkness, and when it woke, it was in the shelter. The dragon's eyes grew heavy as the glow pulsed stronger for a moment. It curled closer to itself, shivering. The man quickly moved to his bag, pulling out a blanket. He placed it near the dragon, not on it, waiting for the creature to accept it. The dragon sniffed the cloth, then slowly lowered its head on top of it, breathing easier. The man sat near the dragon, leaning against the wall of the ship. His eyes stayed fixed on the glow, but his mind was full of questions. Why would a dragon, already rare, carry alien technology within its body? Was it created this way, or did something happen to it long ago? And if this secret was true, what did it mean for the future? He glanced at the sleeping dragon and whispered to himself, "You are more important than even you know." Outside the ship, the forest was quiet, but above in the darkness a shadow passed. The silent craft that had been following them still lingered, its eyes locked on the small ship hidden below the trees. Whoever controlled it had seen the glow through their scanners. They now knew the dragon was not just a broken creature. It was something far more valuable. And they would not let it slip away. Inside, the dragon stirred in its sleep. Its dreams were filled with strange images, machines, voices, other dragons, a war across the stars. It growled softly in its sleep, wings twitching. The man heard and moved closer, whispering, "It's only a dream. You are safe." His voice calmed the creature, and slowly the dragon's breathing steadied. The glow beneath its chest faded into a soft shimmer, like starlight hidden behind clouds. The man stayed awake, keeping watch, his mind restless. He knew their journey had only begun, and danger was already close. Morning light crept through the ship's small window. The dragon opened its eyes, blinking at the brightness. It stretched slowly, wincing from old wounds but stronger than before. The man greeted it with a quiet nod and offered more food. The dragon accepted, eating carefully. When it finished, the man crouched again, speaking gently. I do not know your full story yet, but I will help you find it. Whatever this glow is, whatever it means, we will discover it together. The dragon looked at him with golden eyes that held both fear and trust. For the first time, it lowered its head in front of him, a sign of respect. The bond had begun. But outside, far beyond their view, the hunters who followed them prepared their next move. The man had chosen the dragon had chosen to trust, and now the galaxy itself seemed to be watching. First contact had been made, not of fire and war, but of food, kindness, and a secret light that could change everything. The morning had only just begun when the man prepared the ship for flight again. The dragon sat quietly in the corner, its golden eyes watching every movement. It did not understand machines, but it could sense the man's focus and calm energy as he worked. He checked the controls, adjusted the panels, and scanned the air around them. Something about his movements felt urgent, like he knew time was slipping away. The dragon tilted its head, sensing a shadow of danger. The man glanced back at it and spoke softly, "We cannot stay here any longer. They will come." The dragon did not know who they were, but it understood the tone. It stood slowly, stretching its weak wings, ready to follow wherever the man led. The engines roared to life, breaking the silence of the forest. Birds scattered into the air, startled by the noise. The ship lifted slowly, rising above the trees. The dragon pressed its face against the window again, watching the world fall away. For a moment, it felt free, as if the sky was calling it back. But that moment ended quickly. On the radar, the man saw something he feared, two signals closing in fast from the north. His jaw tightened. "They found us," he muttered. He pushed the controls forward, and the ship shot into the sky. The dragon stumbled but steadied itself, claws gripping the floor. Its eyes narrowed as it felt the rush of speed. Behind them, dark ships appeared, sleek and sharp like predators. They glided through the clouds with silent engines, their black metal gleaming in the sunlight. They were hunters, and their prey was the dragon. The man's hands moved quickly, twisting the ship through narrow paths between mountain ridges. The dragon growled softly, feeling the chase in its bones. The hunters opened fire. Blasts of energy lit the sky, streaks of light cutting through the clouds. The ship shook as one shot grazed its side, sparks flying inside the cabin. The dragon flinched, remembering cages, remembering chains, remembering pain. But the man's voice cut through the fear. "Hold on. I will get us out." His words were steady, like stone against storm. The chase grew faster. The ship dove into a canyon, weaving through tall cliffs. The hunters followed closely, firing again and again. Explosions echoed against the rock walls, filling the air with dust and fire. The dragon pressed low to the floor, its wings shielding its body. But as the blasts shook the ship, something stirred inside it. The glow beneath its chest flickered once, then again, brighter than before. The man noticed, his eyes flicking between the controls and the dragon. "Not now," he whispered, half to himself, half to the creature. "Stay calm. Stay with me." The dragon's glow pulsed in rhythm with its heart, its eyes shining brighter. Instinct told it to fight, to unleash something hidden inside, but its body was still too weak. All it could do was growl, the sound filling the cabin with low thunder. The man pulled the ship up sharply, climbing high above the canyon. The hunters rose after them, firing more shots. One blast struck the rear engine, and alarms screamed inside the cabin. Smoke filled the air. The ship staggered, losing speed. The dragon's claws dug into the floor, its body shaking as the world tilted. The man cursed under his breath, trying to steady the controls. "We cannot outfly them like this," he muttered. His eyes hardened with decision. "Then we will outsmart them." He pulled the ship into the clouds, vanishing from sight. The hunters spread out, scanning the skies. For a few moments, only silence filled the air. Inside the cloud cover, the man shut down parts of the engine, making the ship drift silently. He guided it carefully, hiding in the mist. The dragon breathed heavily, its chest glowing brighter with each pulse. The man turned to it. "Listen," he said softly. "I need you to stay calm. Whatever is inside you, it is not your enemy. It is part of you. But right now, we must escape, and I need your trust." The dragon stared at him with wide golden eyes, and slowly, it lowered its head. A silent answer. It trusted him. The hunters circled above, scanning. One ship passed close, its lights cutting through the clouds. The man held his breath, waiting. The dragon stayed still, though its glow threatened to give them away. The hunter ship flew past, missing them by seconds. The man released his breath and quickly reignited the engines. The ship roared back to life, bursting from the clouds at full speed. The hunters turned sharply, chasing again, but the man had already set a new course, straight toward the edge of the atmosphere. The sky darkened as they climbed higher, the blue fading into black. Stars filled the view. The dragon pressed against the window, its eyes wide with wonder. It had seen the stars in dreams, but never like this. Freedom stretched endlessly before it, and for one heartbeat, it forgot the danger. But the hunters did not. They rose behind, weapons ready, faster now in the thin air. The man's ship shuddered, its damaged engine struggling. "Almost there," he whispered. "Hold on." The dragon growled, its glow flaring brighter, as if lending strength. One hunter closed in, preparing to strike. The man twisted the ship sharply, but the engine coughed, failing. The blast was about to hit when the dragon suddenly let out a roar. It was not the weak sound of the cage but something deeper, ancient. The glow from its chest surged out, a wave of light bursting through the cabin walls. For a second the hunter ship faltered, its systems glitching under the strange energy. The man seized the chance, diving into the darkness of space. The stars blurred as they broke free from the planet's grip. Behind them, the hunters recovered and followed, but they had been delayed just enough. The man adjusted the controls, sweat on his face. "Whatever that was," he said breathlessly, "it just saved us." The dragon panted, weak from the effort, its glow fading again. It lowered its head, exhausted, but its eyes met the man's. For the first time, it saw something new there, not just kindness, but respect. The man gave a small nod. "We are not done yet," he said, his voice steady once more. "They will not stop. But neither will we." As the ship drifted into the quiet of space, stars shining all around, the dragon closed its eyes, resting. The man kept his gaze forward, his hands firm on the controls. The shelter was behind them now, broken cages and cruel guards left far below. Ahead lay a new world, unknown and dangerous, but filled with possibility. The chase had only begun, but together they had survived the first step of freedom. And in the silence of the galaxy, the hunters tightened their formation, whispering orders through hidden channels. The dragon was no longer just an abandoned beast. It was a target. And soon, the real hunt would begin. The ship drifted through the silent sea of stars, leaving the world of cages and chains far behind. The man sat at the controls, his eyes sharp, scanning the endless black. He was tired, but he did not let himself rest. The dragon lay curled behind him, its body rising and falling with heavy breaths. It had spent its strength during the escape, and now it slept, though even in sleep its chest glowed faintly, a reminder of the secret it carried. The man watched it for a moment, then looked back to the stars. He knew they were not safe. He knew the hunters would not stop. Yet for the first time since the chase began, he allowed himself a small sigh of relief. They had made it into space. That was the first step. The dragon stirred in its sleep, dreaming of skies and mountains long gone. Its wings twitched as if remembering how to fly. A soft growl escaped its throat, not of anger but of longing. The man glanced at it and whispered, "You will fly again. Not in a cage, not in fear, but under open skies. His words hung in the air like a promise. Hours passed. The ship moved across starfields, passing fragments of rock and drifting light. The dragon woke slowly, lifting its head and blinking at the sight outside the window. Its golden eyes widened. Stars stretched in every direction, glowing like endless fireflies. The dragon pressed closer to the glass, its breath fogging the surface. It had dreamed of freedom but never imagined such beauty. The man smiled faintly, watching its reaction. "It is bigger than the world you left," he said softly. "Out here there are countless worlds, countless skies. And one of them will be ours." The dragon tilted its head, curious. It could not speak, but its eyes asked a question. The man answered anyway. "We are not going to war. We are not running to hide forever. We are going home." The word home lingered in the cabin. The dragon's ears twitched. Home was a word it had almost forgotten. The journey continued. The man programmed a new course, away from patrol routes, away from the hunters. He chose a world far beyond, a world he had heard of only in whispers. A place untouched, hidden, waiting. The ship's engines hummed as it set toward that destination. The dragon settled back down, but its eyes did not leave the stars. Each one seemed to call, each one seemed alive. Yet behind them, far away but steady, a shadow moved. The hunters had not given up. Their ship trailed at a distance, too far to be seen, too quiet to be heard. Like wolves in the dark, they followed patiently, waiting for the right moment to strike. Inside the cabin, the man began to repair the damaged panels. Sparks flew as he worked with tools, his face lit by small flashes of light. The dragon watched him carefully. Every sound of metal made it flinch, memories of chains still fresh. The man noticed and paused. "No chains here," he said quietly. "These tools are not for cages. They are for fixing, for building, for freedom." The dragon tilted its head, studying him. Slowly it relaxed. It lowered its head to the floor, listening to the rhythm of his work like a strange lullaby. After some time the man pulled out a small screen and tapped it. Images appeared, maps of stars, data on planets, information about distant systems. He pointed to one glowing blue dot. "This is where we are going," he explained. "A planet untouched, rich with air, water, and land. Few know about it. I discovered it years ago, but I never had a reason to go. Now I do." His eyes flicked to the dragon. The creature blinked slowly, understanding that this reason was itself. The dragon shifted closer, resting its nose near his arm. The man froze for a second, then slowly reached out, brushing his hand against its scales. Warmth spread between them. For the first time, the dragon accepted his touch fully. But peace never lasted long. The ship's alarms beeped suddenly. The man looked up sharply, his eyes narrowing. Something was out there. He pressed buttons quickly, scanning the area. Nothing showed on the radar. Still, he felt it. Something in the dark was following. He turned off the alarm, not wanting to scare the dragon, but inside his heart beat faster. He whispered to himself, "They are still there." The dragon lifted its head, sensing his unease. Its chest glowed faintly, reacting to the unseen danger. The man stroked its nose gently. "Not yet," he said. "Save your strength." The ship entered a field of drifting rocks, broken remains of an ancient asteroid. Shadows passed across the cabin as giant stones floated by. The man guided carefully through them, using the rocks as cover. The dragon watched the rocks with interest, sometimes growling softly when a piece drifted too close. The man chuckled once. "You would protect this ship if you could, wouldn't you?" The dragon blinked, its golden eyes steady. The man's smile faded into seriousness. "One day, you will. But until then, I will protect you." Hours turned to days. The journey stretched long. The dragon grew stronger with each meal and each moment of rest. It began to stand taller, its wings unfolding more often, though still weak. It would walk slowly across the cabin, testing its legs. The man encouraged it gently, speaking to it as if it understood every word. And in truth, the dragon did understand more than he knew. It could not form words, but it felt his meaning, his intentions, his kindness. Each day the bond grew deeper, invisible yet unbreakable. At last the ship reached the edge of their destination system. A bright star shone in the distance, and around it a green-blue planet spun like a jewel in the dark. The dragon pressed its face against the glass again, eyes wide with wonder. Clouds swirled across oceans, mountains glimmered in sunlight, rivers cut across forests. It was alive, beautiful, and open. The dragon let out a low rumble, not of fear but of awe. The man smiled. "Yes," he said. "That is where we will begin again." The word home returned in his voice. But just as the ship angled toward the new world, the shadow in the dark revealed itself. The hunters uncloaked their ship behind them, sleek and sharp, glowing with power. They had followed all along, waiting until the moment was perfect. Now the trap was set. The man's eyes hardened as the alarms screamed again. The dragon growled, its chest glowing brighter, golden light filling the cabin. Freedom was close, home was close, but danger had arrived once more. The journey to the new world had begun, but it would not be an easy arrival. For beyond the beauty of the planet, war waited in the shadows, and both man and dragon would soon face it together. The alarms screamed inside the small ship as the hunter vessel revealed itself. Red lights flashed across the cabin, and the man's hands moved quickly over the controls, guiding the ship toward the green-blue planet below. The dragon pressed against the window, its golden eyes glowing brighter as danger grew closer. It could feel the hunter's presence like a cold wind pressing against its scales. The man gritted his teeth, muttering, "They never gave up. They followed us all this way." The hunters began to close the distance, their weapons charging, bright lines of energy glowing at the tips of their wings. The dragon growled low, its chest pulsing with strange light. The man glanced back and saw it. He had seen the glow before, but now it was stronger, spreading across the dragon's body like veins of fire. "Not yet," he whispered urgently. "Save your strength. We are not ready." But the dragon could not control it. The light grew with its heartbeat, rising and falling like waves in a storm. The hunters fired. Blazing energy streaked across space, striking near the ship. Explosions shook the cabin, making the dragon stumble. It roared, and with that roar the glow erupted from its chest. Golden light burst out, filling the cabin and shooting beyond the walls. The hunter ships staggered as if struck by an unseen force. Their lights flickered, their engines sputtered, and alarms rang in their systems. The man's eyes widened. "It is not just light," he whispered. "It is energy. Living energy." The dragon swayed, exhausted from the sudden burst, and collapsed to the floor. The glow dimmed but did not vanish completely. The man steadied the controls, using the opening to dive the ship into the planet's atmosphere. Flames licked at the windows as they entered, the air thick and heavy, shaking the ship like a storm. The dragon lay weak but breathing, its eyes half closed. The man looked at it with awe and fear. "What are you?" he whispered. They crashed through clouds, heading toward a stretch of land covered in green forests and shining rivers. Behind them the hunters followed, though slower now, still shaken by the strange pulse of energy. The man guided the ship down with great effort, finally landing in a wide clearing. The ship groaned, smoke rising from its engines, but it held together. Silence followed, broken only by the sound of the dragon's heavy breathing. The man rushed to its side. He placed his hand near the glowing scar, studying it. The light pulsed softly, warm against his skin. He felt not just heat but something more, like a rhythm, a heartbeat that was not entirely the dragon's own. He pulled back, shaking his head. "This is not natural. This is connected." He thought of stories, old research, rumors of technology from long before human history. Machines that lived inside flesh, powers that were not built but grown. Could the dragon be carrying one of those secrets inside its body? The dragon stirred, opening its golden eyes. It looked at the man with confusion and fear. It did not understand what was happening inside itself, only that it was changing. The man stroked its nose gently. "It is not your fault," he said. "Whatever was done to you, we will find the truth." The dragon blinked slowly, as if comforted by his words. It closed its eyes again, resting. The man stood and walked to the control panel, pulling out a small device. He scanned the dragon carefully, watching the readings on the screen. Lines of strange data appeared, patterns that made no sense. Yet one thing was clear: the dragon's glow was not random. It followed design. It was technology fused with life. The hunters were still out there, waiting above the clouds. The man knew they would not stop. They had seen the power too, and now they would chase even harder. He tightened his fists. "They know," he whispered. "They know what you carry." He turned to the dragon again. "You are more dangerous than any weapon they have ever seen. But you are not a weapon. You are more than that." The dragon's tail twitched, as if responding to his voice. Night began to fall on the new world. The man stepped outside the ship, scanning the area. The forest glowed faintly with strange plants that shined in the dark. The air was rich and alive, full of sounds of creatures unknown. He breathed deeply, feeling the difference from the cold shelter and the empty void of space. This planet was not just a hiding place. It was something else. He looked up at the stars, knowing the hunters were still above, waiting for the right moment. He whispered, "We must be ready." Inside the ship the dragon dreamed again. This time the dreams were clearer. It saw shadows of other dragons, great and powerful, flying across skies filled with fire. It saw humans standing beside them, not as enemies but as allies. It saw battles against machines, glowing weapons, and endless darkness. And always, at the center, the same golden light that now lived inside its chest. The dragon awoke suddenly, its eyes glowing brighter than before. It raised its head and stared at the man. For the first time, the light spread beyond its chest, tracing lines along its wings and tail. The man froze, stunned by the sight. The glow moved like living fire, but instead of burning it shone with warmth. The dragon stretched its wings, weak but determined. It stood tall for a moment, its body trembling but proud. The man stepped closer, whispering, "You are remembering, aren't you? This power is not new to you. It was always inside." The dragon let out a low sound, half growl, half sigh, and lowered its head near him again. He touched its scales gently. "We will find the truth," he promised. "Together." But as the night deepened, the sky above cracked with light. The hunters had returned, their ships descending through the clouds. The man's eyes narrowed. "They are not waiting anymore," he said. He turned to the dragon. Its chest glowed brighter, responding to the threat. The forest around them shimmered as if reacting to the light, strange plants bending toward it. Something in this world recognized the dragon's power, and the dragon could feel it too. It was not just carrying a secret. It was connected to something greater, something old and hidden. The man tightened his grip on his weapon, though he knew it was small compared to what was coming. He looked at the dragon one more time. "This is your power," he said firmly. "But you are not alone. We will face them together." The dragon roared, its glow blazing against the darkness, lighting the forest like a second sun. Above, the hunters closed in, their weapons ready, unaware that the power they sought was no longer asleep. The secret inside the dragon had begun to awaken, and nothing in the galaxy could stop what was coming next. The night sky exploded with fire as the hunter ships broke through the clouds. Their engines roared like thunder, their lights cut across the forest like blades. The man rushed to the dragon, shaking its shoulder. "We have to move," he said urgently. The dragon's golden eyes flashed open, the glow inside its chest responding to the threat above. The hunters fired flares into the forest, bright spheres of light that turned night into day. The man grabbed his bag and ran toward the exit. The dragon followed, wings dragging, still too weak for flight but strong enough to run. The forest shook as the hunters landed their machines. The sound of metal legs hit the ground, marching forward. They had not come in ships alone. They had brought war machines designed for capture, with nets, chains, and weapons that paralyzed instead of killed. They did not want the dragon destroyed. They wanted it alive. The man and dragon sprinted into the thick trees, the forest alive with glowing plants and strange animal cries. The ground was soft with moss, and vines brushed their faces as they ran. Behind them, the hunters' machines stomped, crushing trees and burning paths with fire. The man ducked low, leading the dragon toward a river ahead. "In the water!" he shouted. They plunged into the cold current, the man swimming while the dragon's massive body cut through the flow. The hunters' lights flashed behind them, beams sweeping across the river. The man held his breath, pulling himself under a fallen log. The dragon followed, lowering its glowing chest beneath the water to hide the light. For a moment, silence filled the forest. The hunters' machines scanned the area, red sensors shining across the river. One beam passed over the log where the man and dragon hid. The man's heart pounded. The dragon's golden eyes narrowed, and for the first time, the man heard a voice inside his head. It was not spoken out loud, yet it was clear. "Do not move." The man almost gasped, but he stopped himself. His eyes widened as he realized the dragon was speaking, not with its mouth but directly to his mind. The voice was deep and calm, carrying weight like the earth itself. He stared at the dragon under the log, and it stared back at him, its eyes glowing faintly. The hunters' machines continued scanning, then moved on, fooled by the still water. Slowly the man rose, gasping quietly for air. The dragon surfaced beside him, water dripping from its scales. The man whispered, "That was you. You spoke to me." The dragon tilted its head, confused but not denying it. The glow in its chest pulsed softly. "Yes," the voice said again inside his head. "I spoke." The man felt chills run through him, but there was no time to question. The hunters had moved farther down the river, but more were coming. He grabbed the dragon's neck and whispered, "We must keep moving." They swam across and dragged themselves onto the far bank. The forest ahead grew denser, with towering trees that reached the sky. The dragon's glow dimmed as it pushed forward, hiding its light. The man stayed close, amazed at what had just happened, but focused on survival. Behind them, the hunters were not fooled for long. One of their machines scanned traces of heat in the water and let out a screech. The hunters spread out, moving faster. The forest shook with their heavy steps. The man and dragon climbed a hill, the ground slippery with roots. As they reached the top, the man turned and saw lights filling the trees below. The hunters were coming like an endless wave. He whispered, "We cannot outrun them forever." The dragon growled low, the glow in its chest brightening. The man looked at it and shook his head. "Not yet. Save it. You are too weak." The dragon hesitated, then lowered its glow, trusting his words. They pushed deeper into the forest until they reached a cavern hidden behind a waterfall. The man pulled the dragon inside. The cave was wide and dark, its walls covered in strange crystals that glimmered with faint blue light. The dragon curled its body near the wall, panting heavily. The man crouched beside it, breathing hard. "We will rest for a moment," he whispered. Outside, the hunters' lights passed by, scanning the waterfall but not entering the cave. For now, they were safe. The man turned to the dragon. "You spoke to me," he said softly, still unable to believe it. The dragon lifted its head, eyes glowing in the crystal light. "Yes," the voice came again in his mind. "I do not know how, but I can." The man's chest tightened. "Do you understand me fully? Can you think as I do?" The dragon lowered its gaze. "I remember pieces. Shadows of the past. But not all. I am broken." The man shook his head firmly. "No, you are not broken. You survived." The dragon studied him for a long moment, then lowered its head close to his. "Why do you help me?" it asked. The man looked into its eyes and answered without hesitation. Because you deserve more than chains. For the first time, the dragon felt something it had never known with a human. Trust. The glow in its chest pulsed warmly, and the man felt it, like a heartbeat shared between them. But their peace did not last. Outside, the sound of machines grew louder again. The hunters had doubled back, and soon their lights shone against the waterfall. The man stood quickly. They are here. The dragon rose too, wings twitching, eyes glowing brighter. The hunters began firing, energy blasts striking the rocks near the cave. Explosions shook the walls. The man raised his weapon, firing back though it was small against their machines. The dragon roared, the sound shaking the cave itself. The glow in its chest spread across its body once more, brighter and stronger than before. The hunters outside staggered, their machines flickering as the strange energy reached them. The man grabbed the dragon's side. Now, he shouted. Use it. The dragon stepped forward, the golden light blazing from its body like a storm. It roared again, and this time the light exploded outward, blasting through the waterfall, striking the hunters directly. Their machines sparked and collapsed, crashing into the river. The survivors screamed, retreating quickly into the forest. The light faded, leaving the dragon trembling, weak but alive. The man caught it, steadying its body. He whispered, "You saved us." The dragon's voice came again, faint but clear. "We saved each other." The man looked into its glowing eyes and nodded. "Then we keep running. But this time, together." The dragon lowered its head in agreement. Outside, the forest was quiet again, but the chase was far from over. The hunters had seen the power, and now they would not stop. The man and dragon stepped out of the cave, the waterfall shining behind them, their bond stronger than before. For the first time, they were no longer just survivor and rescuer. They were partners in a fight neither fully understood yet. And above the stars, more ships were moving, drawn by the light of the dragon's power, unaware that with every step the bond between man and dragon was growing into something unstoppable. The forest was silent after the great roar, but silence did not mean safety. The man and dragon moved quickly through the trees, their footsteps light on the mossy ground. The dragon's glow had dimmed again, and its wings hung weakly at its sides, but in its golden eyes something new flickered. The man noticed it as they pushed forward, deeper into the wilderness. "You are thinking," he whispered, keeping his voice low. The dragon turned its head slightly, and for the first time since they had escaped the shelter, its voice came clearly inside his mind without struggle. "I am remembering." The man's heart quickened. "Remembering what?" The dragon lowered its gaze as they crossed a shallow stream. A sky full of stars, not this sky but another. Mountains with black stone that burned from within. "And others like me." The man stumbled at those words. "Others? You mean, you were not alone?" The dragon paused at the stream's edge, eyes glowing brighter. "I see them, but they are shadows. I see fire, wings in the night, voices calling, and then chains. Always chains." The dragon growled low, its chest pulsing faintly. The man placed a hand against its scales. "Don't push too hard. Memories can hurt." The dragon blinked slowly. "They do hurt. But they are mine." The forest ahead opened into a valley. Strange rock pillars rose from the ground like giant claws, glowing faintly with the same light that lived inside the dragon. The man slowed, staring. "Do you know this place?" he asked. The dragon stepped forward carefully, its claws clicking against the stone. "No. But it feels known." As they walked among the pillars, the dragon's glow began to sync with the crystals in the rocks. The pillars pulsed whenever the dragon passed, lighting the valley with golden waves. The man looked around in awe. "It reacts to you. Like it knows you." The dragon closed its eyes, and another wave of memory washed over it. "I see a great hall built of stone and fire. I see my kind flying above it. We guarded something powerful. And humans came. Not like you. They came with greed. They wanted the fire we carried. They wanted to make it theirs. Its voice grew louder inside the man's head, trembling with both anger and sadness. That is when the chains came. That is when I was taken. The dragon opened its eyes again, and they burned brighter than ever. The man swallowed hard, understanding a piece of the truth. The hunters were not chasing a random beast. They were chasing the last guardian of something ancient, something beyond normal power. He touched the dragon's neck. You are more than what they told you. You are not broken. You are a keeper of something greater. The dragon stared at him for a long moment, then whispered in his mind, "Why do you believe in me when no one else does?" The man's voice was steady. "Because I see what they fear. They do not fear your weakness. They fear your strength. And I see your heart." The dragon lowered its head, a low hum coming from its chest, not of anger but of trust. But the peace in the valley did not last. High above, shadows moved across the stars. The hunters had regrouped, their ships circling like vultures. From the distance, red beams scanned the land, closing in. The dragon lifted its head sharply. "They are coming." The man cursed under his breath. "We cannot stay here. If this place connects to your past, they will destroy it to reach you." The dragon growled, its wings twitching. "No. They will not take it from me again." The man shook his head. "Not yet. You are still weak. If you fight now, you may lose everything." But the dragon's glow pulsed stronger, reacting to the crystal pillars. Each breath it took made the valley brighter. The man shielded his eyes. "What is happening?" The dragon's voice trembled in his mind. "The stones awaken my blood. They show me more." Images flashed into the dragon's thoughts, spilling into the man's mind as well. They both saw visions of tall towers made of crystal, humans and dragons once working together as allies, sharing knowledge, flying side by side. But then came betrayal, chains, and fire raining from the sky. The dragons were captured, caged, and broken, one by one. The vision ended with the lonely image of the dragon itself, taken far from its home, trapped in the shelter where it had lost hope. The man stumbled back from the force of the vision, clutching his head. "I saw it too," he gasped. The dragon shook its head, smoke curling from its nose. "It was real. My kind, my home, gone." The man forced himself to stand. "Then you are the last of them." The dragon's chest dimmed, the glow sinking deep. "I am alone." The man grabbed its face, forcing its golden eyes to meet his. "No. Not alone. Not anymore." The dragon stared into his eyes, and for a brief moment, it believed him. But before either could say more, the valley shook. The hunters had landed at the edge, their machines advancing. Red beams cut across the crystal pillars, shattering them one by one. The dragon roared, fury echoing across the valley. Its glow burst out again, brighter than before, but still unstable. The man pulled at its wing. "We must go. Live now, fight later." The dragon hesitated, torn between rage and survival. Finally, it turned and followed, crashing through the trees with the man at its side. The hunters fired nets of light, but the dragon slashed them apart with its claws. Explosions lit up the night, branches raining down around them. The man fired back with his weapon, covering their escape. They reached the far side of the valley, climbing a steep slope that led into mountains. Behind them, the hunters burned the crystal pillars to ash, erasing the last link to the dragon's past. The dragon turned its head once, watching as the place of memory collapsed in smoke and fire. Its voice entered the man's mind, filled with sorrow and rage. "They take everything." The man gritted his teeth. "Then we take it back. But not tonight. Tonight we survive." As they reached the mountain path, the dragon's body trembled, weakened from the glow. The man stopped, placing his hand against its side. "You showed me your past. Now I will show you your future. We will fight, but not alone. There must be others out there who will stand against them." The dragon looked at him silently, its golden eyes burning with tears of fire. Then slowly, it nodded. Together, it said. The man smiled faintly despite the danger. Together. High above, the hunter ships circled, their red lights searching. But in the shadows of the mountains, man and dragon moved forward, bound not only by survival but by memories awakened, memories that promised something greater than either of them yet understood. The mountains were cold and quiet, their peaks sharp against the night sky. The man and the dragon had climbed high to escape the hunters, but even here they could not rest. The dragon's wings were heavy, its body shaking with weakness, and the man was exhausted from carrying supplies and keeping watch. For days they moved through the rocky paths, eating little, speaking less, always listening for the hum of machines above. Yet no matter how far they traveled, the hunters' ships never gave up. Sometimes the red beams cut through the fog, sometimes the sound of engines rolled across the cliffs, reminding them that time was running out. On the fourth night, as the man built a small fire in a cave, they heard footsteps. He stood quickly, weapon in hand, while the dragon's golden eyes narrowed in the dark. From the mouth of the cave, a figure appeared. It was a woman, her clothes torn from travel, her face pale with hunger, her hands raised in peace. "Please," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I am not one of them. I need help." The man's grip tightened on his weapon. "Who are you?" The dragon growled low, smoke curling from its nose. The woman stepped closer into the firelight. "My name is Lyra. I escaped from the hunters. They kept me as a servant, but I ran when they landed near the valley. I saw what they did to the crystals. I saw you escape." Her eyes flicked to the dragon, widening with awe. "I never thought I'd see one alive." The man frowned, suspicion burning inside him. "If you ran from them, why follow us?" Lyra lowered her eyes. "Because they will find me again if I am alone. I have no food, no weapon, nowhere to go. Please, let me stay with you. Just for the night." The dragon's voice entered the man's mind, deep and cautious. "She is afraid, but fear can be a mask." The man nodded slightly, still watching her carefully. He gestured toward the cave wall. "Stay there. Do not move closer." Lyra obeyed, sitting down slowly, her hands still raised. She looked weak, shivering in the cold, and after a while the man lowered his weapon. He gave her a piece of dried food, which she ate quickly, as if she had not eaten in days. The dragon kept its golden eyes fixed on her, never blinking. Hours passed, and the fire grew smaller. Lyra spoke softly about the hunters, telling stories of their cruelty, how they captured creatures, tore apart lands, and burned everything in their path. Her voice shook as she spoke, but the man noticed something strange. She never asked about him, only about the dragon. Every glance she gave carried both fear and curiosity, as if she wanted to learn every detail of the creature before her. The next morning, they set out together. The man allowed Lyra to follow, though he kept his weapon ready. The dragon walked beside him, uneasy. The path was narrow and dangerous, with sharp rocks and sudden drops. Lyra stumbled often, but she kept going, sometimes too close to the dragon, sometimes too close to the man, like she wanted to earn their trust. That night, as they rested near a frozen stream, Lyra spoke again. "I know a place," she whispered. "A hidden valley beyond these mountains. The hunters don't go there. They fear the storms that guard it. If you take me with you, I can show you the path." The man studied her carefully. "Why should I trust you?" Lyra met his eyes without blinking. "Because you have no other way. The hunters are closing in. I heard their radios before I escaped. They know you head north. If you keep going this way, they will trap you. But the valley, it is your only chance." The dragon shifted, its tail curling around its body. "She speaks with certainty," it whispered into the man's mind. "Too much certainty." The man frowned, but said nothing. 2 more days passed, and they followed Lyra's direction. The path she led them on was harsh but strangely clear, as if it had been used before. The dragon grew uneasy, its golden eyes watching every shadow. The man too felt the weight of doubt, but with hunters at their back, They had no choice but to follow. On the third night, as they camped beneath an overhang of stone, the betrayal came. The dragon had dozed, its glow faint, while the man sat by the fire cleaning his weapon. Lyra moved quietly, sitting beside him. Her voice was soft. "You care for it," she said. The man looked at her sharply. "It is not an it. It has a name." Lyra tilted her head. "What is it?" The man hesitated. The dragon had not spoken its true name even to him, and he would not betray that. "It is not mine to give." Lyra's smile was faint, almost cold. "Names are power. Do you know that?" Before the man could answer, a sharp whistle echoed through the night. The dragon's eyes snapped open, glowing bright. From the darkness above, lights flared, red lights, hunter lights. Machines dropped from the cliffs, weapons armed. Lyra stood quickly, stepping away from the fire. Her face was no longer weak, no longer afraid. It was sharp with purpose. "You led me right to it," she said, her voice clear and strong. "I told them I would bring the beast to the valley. And you made it so easy." The man's heart froze. "You lied." Lyra's eyes hardened. "I survived by lying. And now I will survive again. The hunters promised me freedom if I delivered the dragon." The dragon roared, fury shaking the mountains. Its glow flared, fire bursting from its chest. The hunters fired nets of light, aiming for its wings. The man leapt to his feet, shooting at them, rage burning in his chest. "You betrayed us," he shouted at Lyra, but she only smiled. "I did what I had to do." The dragon tore apart the first net, its claws slashing through the energy, but more hunters surrounded them, their machines buzzing. Lyra moved to the side, safe in the shadows, her deal already made. The fight was brutal. The dragon tried to fly but its wings were too weak. It fought with claws and fire, shaking the ground with every roar. The man fought at its side, covering its flanks, his weapon glowing with heat. The hunters closed in, their voices shouting commands, their machines firing again and again. Lyra watched, her face unreadable. The man saw her once through the smoke, and for a brief second he thought he saw doubt in her eyes, but then she turned away. The dragon's voice thundered in his mind, full of anger and pain. "They will not take me again." It struck the ground, sending a wave of fire across the stone, forcing the hunters back. But for every one they pushed away, 2 more came. Finally, with a roar that shook the valley, the dragon unleashed all its remaining strength. Its glow burst out in a wave, blinding bright, tearing through nets and machines, sending hunters scattering. The man fell to his knees, shielding his eyes, while the mountains echoed with the sound of shattering stone. When the light faded, silence followed. The hunters were gone, retreating into the shadows of the cliffs. The dragon stood tall but weak, its body trembling, smoke rising from its scales. The man staggered to his feet, turning toward Lyra, but she was gone. Only her footprints remained, leading down the mountain. She had slipped away in the chaos, leaving behind only her betrayal. The dragon lowered its head, its golden eyes burning with both rage and sadness. "She tricked us." The man clenched his fists, his voice hard. "Yes. But she showed us something too. We cannot trust easily. We cannot forget what they want." He touched the dragon's side gently. "Next time, we will be ready." The dragon nodded slowly, its chest glowing faintly in the dark. The night after the betrayal was colder than ever, and the mountain winds cut through the cave like knives, but the man and the dragon did not stop moving higher because they both knew the hunters would come again, this time with more strength, and no mercy. The dragon's body was weak, and covered in scars, its glow faint like dying embers, but deep inside it a fire still lived, a fire that refused to die. The man walked beside it, every step his face tired but his eyes sharp, always watching the sky for the red lights of the hunters above. For 2 days they climbed until they reached the summit, where the world opened wide beneath them, endless valleys, shining rivers, and far away the black shadow of the hunters' fleet filling the horizon. The man tightened his grip on his weapon, the dragon raised its head, though pain ran through its wings, and they both knew there would be no more running. This was the place they would stand and fight together, and perhaps fall together, but never be taken again. At dawn the fleet arrived, their ships blotting out the sun, engines roaring like thunder. The ground shook with the weight of their machines. As they landed on every ridge, soldiers poured out their armor, gleaming weapons, raised their voices, echoing across the cliffs. Bring us the beast, bring us the weapon alive. The dragon's chest burned at those words. Alive, not friend, not guardian, not soul, only weapon. The man stood in front of it, his voice steady. You are not a weapon. You are more than they can ever understand. The dragon's golden eyes met his, and for the first time its voice came not just in the man's mind, but out loud, deep and powerful like the mountain itself. I am not their weapon, I am your home. The words shook the air. The hunters paused, startled, and in that moment, the dragon spread its broken wings, glowing brighter than before. The first attack came fast. Beams of energy cut through the rocks, explosions tore the cliffs apart. The man fired back with precision, striking ships and soldiers, but the numbers were too great. The dragon roared, flames rolling from its mouth, burning through machines, but each blast cost it strength, its body trembling with every strike. The man moved to its side, shielding its wounded wings, shouting over the chaos, we fight together to the end. The dragon answered with fire, its glow growing brighter with every roar, but still the hunters pressed closer, nets of energy flying through the air, wrapping around its wings, dragging it down. The man slashed through the nets, but another wave came, and another, until the dragon was bound, and the man fell to his knees beside it, surrounded by enemies. The hunter's leader stepped forward, a tall figure in dark armor, his voice cold. At last, we have the beast, its power will be ours. The man looked up at him, his eyes burning with rage. You will never control it. The leader laughed. You think this creature is your friend? It was made to be our tool, nothing more. The dragon's body shook, chains of light digging into its flesh, but in that pain its glow flared brighter. The ground trembled, cracks spreading through the stone. The man touched its scales, his voice low but fierce. You are not theirs, you are not mine, you are free. The dragon's golden eyes filled with light, fire, and tears mixed in its roar, and suddenly the chains shattered, bursting into sparks of energy that lit the sky. The hunters staggered back, their weapons raised, but it was too late. The dragon rose into the air, its wings blazing with pure golden fire, no longer weak, no longer broken. Its roar echoed like thunder, shaking the fleet above it, unleashed its full power, a storm of fire and light sweeping across the mountain. Ships exploded, soldiers fell, weapons melted under the heat of its fury. The leader tried to command, but his voice was lost in the storm. The dragon's flames tore through his armor, leaving nothing but ashes. The sky itself seemed to burn, glowing red and gold, as the dragon soared higher, carrying the man on its back. For the first time in true flight together, they rose above the hunters, above the fire, above the chains that had bound them for so long. The fleet tried to flee, but the dragon chased them across the sky, its fire cutting through engines, its claws tearing through steel, until no ship remained. The air grew silent, the smoke faded, and the mountains lay scarred, but free at last. The dragon landed slowly, its wings folding, its body trembling from the battle. The man climbed down, his hands on its side, steadying it. You did it, we did it. The dragon lowered its head, touching him gently with its nose, and, for the first time, there was no sadness in its eyes, only peace. The man smiled, though his own body ached with wounds. We have no shelter now, but we have something better. The dragon's deep voice rumbled, soft but clear. We have a home together. They walked down from the mountains side by side, man and dragon, no longer hunter and prey, no longer master and creature, but family. The valleys opened before them, green and alive, untouched by the fire of war. The dragon stretched its wings, feeling the sun warm its scales, and the man looked ahead, his heart steady. The journey had been long, filled with cages and betrayals, battles and pain, but at the end of it, all they had found something no army could take: trust, love, and freedom. The dragon lifted its head toward the sky, its roar carrying far across the land, not a cry of sorrow but of triumph, of life, of home. And the man raised his hand in salute, his voice whispering softly, from shelter to home, and together they walked into the new dawn, ready for whatever waited beyond.